What screams this person peaked in high school to you? I had a conversation in a bar with a drinking buddy years ago. The guy kept going on about the one that got away, how perfect she was and their chemistry together, how natural it was, how he hasn't felt that way about any girl since, yada yada. He was feeling pretty sorry for himself and uninterested in meeting anyone else because they could never compare. When I asked how long ago it was that she moved away, he said 8th grade. Oh, that's awful. I graduated in '05. I was sitting at a tire shop waiting for my truck to get done and an employee slightly older than me walks up to me and asks me, with no previous interaction, if I played football in high school. Wondering where this was going, I responded that I did, but I wasn't great at it. He asked what school I went to, and I told him. Then he starts talking about himself, how he was all confidence and walking me through all of his high school accolades. I never asked for this conversation. I just sat there wondering why this nearly 40-year-old, wildly out of shape, tire shop supervisor was telling me all of this. Then just as soon as it started he bid me good day and walked off. It was bizarre. The best comparison I could make was that he was like the manager Dan from the movie Waiting. That was his vibe. That's how I knew he peaked in high school. How do you know if someone peaked in high school? Don't worry, they'll tell you. One of my uncles, an uncle-in-law, I guess, if we are being technical, would tell anyone who would listen that he was valedictorian of his school and got a perfect SAT score. Even as a young kid, I would sit there thinking this dude is a college graduate, with a career, a wife and kids, and like 20 years out in the real world. Why is he telling people at a BBQ that he was really smart in high school? When I was active on Facebook years ago, someone started a sort of reunion group. I was the nerd in this scenario. One of the high school gals who was incredibly cruel found someone to marry her and ended up a stay-at-home mum who spent all day spouting bitter hate towards everyone while complaining about her own kids getting bullied at school. She had gained a lot of weight and I'm fat myself, but she was even bigger than I. This gal would make the nastiest comments on my pictures to include my weight, which was hilarious considering her own size, insult my job, my husband, and talk about how I was still the ugly nerd. The moderators refused to kick her off despite this. She posted similar vile crap on others' posts too, so I ended up reporting her to Facebook security for cyberbullying just cause and left the group. Now that her kids are in school, she got a job in the public schools. She's probably bullying other parents now for all I know. Do you think when she's old and grey she'll cry because she'll realize how she spent her life as a miserable human? These kinds of people aren't known for their reflective properties. They have their own twisted reality where they are the victim, always, and because of this they are justified and will never understand why others are so mean to them. Stop putting up with their crap and tell them off or cut off communication. My Phil is one of these, but I've also known many others. I don't hold out hope for them anymore. I'd rather be happily surprised by their changing than keep hoping they will and getting hurt over and over. I don't have time for this kind of negativity. Sorry not sorry, Robert. One guy I knew literally got our school emblem and mascot in a huge class of 2010 tattooed on his shoulder. Did he graduate on time? Still going to every high school football game and sitting in the student section, living their dreams through their kids. We have a lot of that in my town. Trying to redo it all again, it is a lot. It makes me roll my eyes a lot. My kids enjoyed high school. It was fun watching them dance, do band and play football. But I was not invested in it as if it was happening to me. I wanted it for them, good things. But if it didn't, I prepared them for that too. When my son's team lost the state championship game his senior year after the team won the 5 years before and 3 years after, I watched a guy go off on his kid because it was his job to win it. What? My son was devastated. But he still had amazing things to come and has went on to do amazing things. Yeah, he looks back and hates they lost, but it was a teaching moment. I played football for 7 years and saw a ton of parents like this. Way to go, Jason, you dropped the freaking ball. Get in the freaking car. Like no wonder Jason is first string and a great running back. His very peace of mind depends on playing good. I can't stand crappy parents. I am terrified of being this parent. My daughter has the same interest I did in school, and I tread very lightly and always tell her if my enthusiasm starts to stress her out, tell me to back the frick off, lol. Talking about high school in every conversation and gossips like a high schooler. I've got a good friend, honestly a great guy. We are in our late 30s, and I don't remember crap about 99% of my former classmates. My friend has a better recollection of everyone's names, friends, sports, relationships, than I did when I was actually in high school, and often talks about it, and I constantly have to say I literally don't know who you are talking about. I don't know if he is just clinging on to those memories or has a 7th level memory. He wasn't even remotely popular. He only left our hometown for college, so maybe that's it. I was gone most of my adulthood until a few years ago. Same. One of my good friends brings up high school every single time he calls me. Dude has a wife, a kid and a very good career, and yet constantly talks about crap that happened 25 years ago, that involved people I don't even remember. Neither of us were popular kids, we both took a lot of flack. I moved away and moved on with my life. He still lives in the area and can't seem to let it go. If you live in the same area you were raised, especially in small towns, this is very common. I think moving around a little gives you some perspective, even if it's from a small town to a neighboring small town or spending a few years away for college. Some people do seem to have better memories of stuff like that, but I will say that if you stay busy, keep trying new things, keep learning, and keep meeting new people, then you inevitably start to forget things and people that weren't super important in your life. We have finite storage space that's readily accessible unless we start using experiential memory as a reminder. The people the original poster is talking about generally don't have much going on in their lives. They can be great people who work hard and take care of their families, but their days are monotonous, often with limited social interaction. They can also be completely obnoxious busybodies whose only job is seemingly gossiping and harassing people. Oh, by the way, you probably won't believe this, but back in high school I broke the record for. In my experience, it's the people that talk about things that happened in high school as if it were yesterday, constantly. I had an ex who would always tell me crazy stories. I'd ask, when did this happen? She would say sophomore year, and we were our mid-20s. Over time, it became clear that HS was the best years of her life and most likely will continue to be, as she didn't have much ambition after HS. I had one good year in HS and reminisce about it every now and then, but it is not on the forefront of my mind. Most of my time in school is a big foggy coalescence of unpleasant emotions and the occasional embarrassing memory that springs up as I'm trying to fall asleep. Yeah, that's pretty much how it was for me, too. About the only thing I remember from high school was how much I hated being there and how much of myself needed to change once I hit college. For me, high school was sort of neutral, mostly because it was when I first started dealing with and healing from goddamn middle school. 1. Trying to keep a dying school alive so they can keep going to local high school sports events, even when the students would be much better off if it dissolved. 2. And when they still talk about school and exploits 30 years later. Yeah, that first point. In my home county of 8,500 people, there used to be 4 school districts. Some of them had as few as 10 kids per class. When consolidation started, people lost their minds. People wrote letters to the editor of the local paper comparing residents of the largest town to World War II Germany, held demonstrations in front of the schools. One person handcuffed herself to the door of the school in protest. The schools eventually consolidated one by one, because while having a small school sounds good in theory, it's pretty expensive in practice. The bigger school is really better for everyone. More educational and co-curricular opportunities, lower per student costs. But dang if Cletus isn't still upset that his son Ricky has to wear a Bulldog jersey for football instead of the Wimmera jersey he wore in high school. It's wild. This is a weird thread, because I've grown a lot as a person since high school, but life has been unkind to me since then. I look at high school and realize that life was the most stable and kind to me back then. I think the difference is that peaking in school denotes not moving on and living in the past, while school being the best, most stable time of your life is more about the drawbacks of responsibility, not the rejection of them. This sounds very similar to my mom's experience. She loved her time in high school because she had a great group of friends. Her 20s, from what I understand, massively sucked. She was still telling stories about working at the movie theater when she was in her 40s. She honestly peaked in her 50s though. She did a lot of cool stuff and actually became a substitute teacher and positively impacted the lives of so many people. I think she was stuck on the magic of having her whole life ahead of her, not just being a big fish in a small pond. And working Kids gave her an opportunity to be a part of that magic again, but supporting others through it. Her funeral was packed. So many kids who are now grown who will never forget her. They outnumbered her high school friends significantly. I had a teacher who said these are the best years of your lives. Since I graduated in 2003, every single year has been better than every year of school since I can really remember. High school was freaking awful and seriously depressing. I had to work as a janitor through grades 11 and 12 to pay rent. I dropped out with one class left to get a union construction job. I'm back in university now doing an engineering degree because I have worked to get my life in a position where this is possible. I was told the same BS of these are the best years of your life. I graduated in 2008. My senior year one worked 35 hours a week on top of going to school and worked other various minimum wage jobs to make ends meet after high school, until I took an IT course when I was 22 or 23. Almost 10 years later I feel like I've almost made it. In high school I was broke, never had enough time or money to do what I wanted, only had my car to my name, no love life, and didn't have anything for retirement, on top of living with a controlling parent. Now, money isn't really an issue. I'm happily married, we own our home, 2 reliable cars, nothing fancy, retirement accounts, and health insurance, other benefits too. Good luck in getting your degree and improving your life situation. Ah man, that's basically where I'm at. Definitely didn't enjoy my teens. I had friends and a stable enough household, but lived in the middle of nowhere and just fell into a rut of anxiety and depression that my parents couldn't grasp an idea of. Well and truly an adult now, and have a successful career, great household with my partner, and always have friends to reach out to. I think things sucking early in life gives you an appreciation for things. My mental health isn't great, but knowing I'm leagues above the lows of my teens is excellent motivation to keep my head above water. I'm married to a man I met in high school, and I can tell from people's reactions when I say that some people assume that means we peaked in high school. But those reactions are split 50-50 with people who think it's super sweet, adorable, like a fairy tale, etc. It's always funny to tell someone new about it and see which side of the line they land on. For the record, in high school I was painfully socially awkward and being abused by a person I thought was my best friend. And my husband was constantly on the verge of failing out because he didn't find school work interesting/challenging, but now he's got a great career and a lot of very engaging hobbies. Those were absolutely not the best years of our lives. In fact, the only reason I remember high school fondly is that it's where I met him. It is super sweet and rare when you find kids capable of long-lasting love. It's what I wished for and probably what most people secretly wish for, but I'm glad I didn't end up with my first love. Congrats on your beautiful relationship. I too married my high school sweetheart. I recently came across my junior high school journal and found an entry that said, "He makes me want to be better at everything, and he makes me so happy." That was over 20 years ago, and I can't help but look back at high school with fondness because of him. talking about your IQ and advanced placement classes when you did nothing afterwards, like being 48 and talking about honors English. That was a minute ago, friend. Believe it or not, some of the kids in my high school's gifted and talented program had a clique and thought they were better than everyone else. I have this memory of going to visit a friend of mine in the GT homeroom during lunch. We could eat lunch in classrooms if teachers permitted it, and asking what board game they were playing. This one guy doesn't even turn around to look at me and says, "You wouldn't understand." Now, I don't look down on any job in the economy, as I feel everyone's time and roles are valuable. But if I'm being honest, it gives me satisfaction that I worked hard to become an economist, while some of these kids from the gifted clique never applied themselves and now have very mediocre jobs that they probably would have looked down on 15 years ago. I remember a similar event now in high school Gen Chem. I was trying to wrap my head round some concept and noticed the guy beside me just getting it immediately. Asked him for help and he smugly hit me with, "It's a way of thinking, you either get or you don't." I'm a physician now, and after a short stint at the local community college for business, he's still working at Best Buy. I hope Best Buy has a good retirement plan. Thanks for the memory jog.